Hey everyone. Hello.
Hi everyone.
Pierre and I are here discussing interesting self-concept topics, and something came up that we thought about sharing with you. It's something very important. It's want to just highlight how important that is, the distinction between qualities and states. And if you think that you already know about that, keep listening to it because there might be some aspects that you haven't considered yet. So, um, Pierre, do you want to say something about, why this is important?
Sure. Absolutely. So what I have noticed in my own work and also with people that I have the chance to um, practice and coach with is this often is this people misconstruing the states between their state, how they feel, versus their quality and who they are. And this is a distinction that is often a fine line, and it's not always that clear. And uh, there are some very important reasons to be able to clarify that. So, and what can happen if you actually don't make that distinction. But the first one will be if you focus on your state all the time, you'll become very focused, you'll become very conscious of it. Um, it will also create a lot of instability in your sense of self because you're focusing on emotion, energy in motion, it comes and goes. And um, this
Yeah,
not accurate description of who you are, right? Is there anything you wanted to add with that?
yeah, sure. Like, you could definitely misconstruct your sense of who you are with how you feel, right? If you just pay attention to your states or how you're feeling in every moment. Uh, on the other hand, like if you get this right, you can create a solid foundation that's based on evidence, yeah, which is your self-concept, which are your qualities, and that foundation that's based on evidence, on your life experience, your memories, um, it's going to give you information that's accurate. So you actually have instructions on how to be that. And that's much more stable than focusing on states that come and go. Of course, if you're a human, you still have emotions um, and you may experience things that you don't like. For example, we all get sad sometimes, we all get angry, right? It's not like now you're a robot, you don't have any emotions anymore. You still have those, but it's very different if you know that you are a joyful person and you are going through a sad moment versus if you think that you're a depressed person that is going through a sad moment, right? It's a very different experience. So it's really important to emphasize that it's not about how you feel in each moment. It's about uh, your sense of who you are. So what is it that you'd like people to focus on, Pierre?
So that's a really good question. It's the scope of time I like them to focus on. So as you said, it's how you feel is the very present moment is according to any given situation throughout the day. That changes all very often. It's not a very solid foundation, as you said. So I want you to focus on that longer scope of time. I want you to focus on your life experience. I want you to focus on different contexts from your date of birth to now, and even also the future. That's a lot more furnished, a lot more solid. So that provides accurate information about who you are, or rather than this like a very short scope of time um, that's clearly not very representative of who you are.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that you emphasize the scope because there is a very clear difference in scope if you think about how am I feeling right now versus who am I as a person, right? It's a much bigger scope. and since states they come and go, they are very fleeting and they are per definition unstable. If you're assessing your sense of who you are based on momentary states, you're going to experience a lot of instability. But if you pay attention to the bigger scope and what you believe to be true about yourself, your certainty that you are a strong person doesn't go away if because you're sleeping, right? It's with you at every moment. It's always there. You may not be using it. So that's the difference between what you believe about yourself and how you're feeling in each moment. And I find it very interesting. Like we were even discussing the difference between how people represent that in different languages. So if you think about English, you say, I am joyful, for example. That means, that could mean I am joyful right now as a state, and that could mean I am joyful as a person, as a generalization. So it's not very clear linguistically what you're talking about. So usually when you frame it in English, you need to frame it in a way that makes it clear. You go like, I am a joyful person, right? That makes you pay attention to that wider scope of your whole life experience. And Pierre was just sharing with me how it goes in French. Like, how do you say that in French, Pierre? How do you express those things in French?
So yes, if I had to translate it from French to English, we would say I am someone who is, let's say, joyful, or I am. We will use I feel, but it will be more of a I am someone who is joyful. That's a quality. And then if you got on the state, we will use more, if I, again, how to translate it. Um, I am joyful now, or I feel joyful. So there's some of
Cool.
the
And,
distinction
and
we have in French. Eh?
yeah, and for those who are French speakers there, how do we actually say it in French?
Yeah, maybe I'm a mistake. Maybe I'm forgetting some aspect, but yeah. And then you told me also that in Portuguese and Spanish, like you have different
Sure.
actually ways of describing that.
Yeah, and I was asking like how do you actually say it in French? Like, can you say it in French?
Oh, yeah. Je suis quelqu'un de joyeux.
Cool. I'm somebody who is joyful, right? I'm
Mm.
and how do you say like the state? Like I am joyful right now, or I'm feeling joyful.
Je me sens joyeux. So, yeah, I am feeling joyful.
I'm feeling joyful. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Like I think in German they also have just one verb, is the verb sein, right? And they say like ich bin fröhlich, I'm happy, right? Is and it's just one verb. It doesn't make a distinction. But some languages do make a distinction. So for example, in Portuguese and Spanish, you actually have one verb for state and one verb for the quality itself. All right. So you can say in Spanish, you can say yo soy alegre, right? Like that's I am as a person, like soy. And if you're going to talk about state, you say estoy, yo estoy alegre. So that's more of a state, right? And in Portuguese is the same. Eu sou alegre, eu estou alegre, sou, estou. So those are two verbs. So it's interesting. Some languages do have a distinction that's embedded in the language between a more shorter scope or a bigger scope of time that's more permanent. And some languages you need to phrase it in a way that makes that distinction clear because you don't have a specific verb to define that, like English, French, German. But anyway, it's very important to be mindful about the distinction between state and a quality, right? And how states come and go, and how qualities are permanent. And when you ask yourself, "Am I joyful?" Right? You want to pay attention to the permanent aspect of it, of the belief aspect, the generalization aspect of it. So you did share with me, Pierre, another way in which you phrase this, like how do you phrase this in English? That was an interesting frame.
Yes. So what I have found useful to ask myself, to ask in coaching sessions, to make sure we are focusing on the scope of time that we want to focus on is based on your whole life experience and in different contexts. Are you a joyful person? So you want to really think. So you got the scope of time, you got the scope of space with the different context, and it's really what you want to be focusing on.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you find that useful. That's a very important distinctions we see people confusing and they go like, oh, I can't be joyful all the time. And when people think like that, they are obviously focusing on the state and not on the certainty, on the belief aspect of it, because you can't be joyful all the time as a quality. You are still a joyful person even when you're feeling sad, right? You are still persistent even when you give up. You are still successful even when you try something out and it doesn't work out. If you don't believe that you are, and your certainty comes and go, that means that there's some self-concept work to do on that. It's not on the state, it's on the quality, on the belief. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Pierre?
No, I think that's it. Just being focusing on your quality will make this quality unconscious, therefore reaching more of a state of flow. But I think you pointed that out also with the very conscious aspect, where if we focus on the state, we're very conscious of it, and that's yeah, we're just focusing on this, and then that will naturally be part of your life when you focus on that level. So yeah, no, that's I hope you all find that useful, and I'm really glad that we had a chance to talk about it today because it's good to be clarified even if you were aware of it before.
That's awesome. Thank you for bringing this topic.
Thank you.